stocks on Wall Street and makes the S&P 500 post its first close above 6,300. The Nasdaq too hits a record ahead of big tech earnings. Asian markets open largely higher, while the GIFT Nifty is indicating a muted start for the Indian market. Oil prices edge lower as trade war concerns increase worries about fuel demand. Gold prices hit a 5-week high as US dollar and treasury yields ease. A trade deal between the United States and India is unlikely to take place before the tariff deal deadline of 1st August. Now, US officials are set to visit India in August for the 6th round of talks. Government sources say that the target of a deal could come in by September or October. Market regulator SEBI has allowed Jane Street to trade in Indian derivatives market. SEBI said that Jane Street and its affiliates refrain from any fraudulent market activities. SEBI added that the investigation is still ongoing and this is not a final clearance. Jagdeep Dhankar resigns as the Vice President's post, citing health concerns and the need to follow medical advice. His resignation letter, he says that the decision was taken to prioritize healthcare in the light of ongoing health issues. Hello, good morning. You've tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC-TV18 and I'm Vinny Motiwala. A quick look at how the Asian markets have opened up so we get an indication of what to expect from the Indian markets as well. Now, Asian markets as of now, Taiwan Index, Hang Seng managing to hold on to gains. Whether you look at Nikkei, which was closed in yesterday's trading session, that also has opened up with some bit of a gains in today's trading session. Nikkei is up almost 0.3%. Overall, ASX 200, the Australian index, have muted to a slight bit of a positive start as what has come in over there. Let's look at what the Indian markets are doing. The handover overall from US has also been a bit positive. Now, Indian markets, as of now, Nifty implied open has moved up, indicating a positive start for the Indian markets. 54 points uptick is what we are watching out for. So, positive start is what we could expect from the Indian markets as well. But that's how the Asian market is set up is looking like. This all is going to be impacting the global market action impacts our overnight markets as well. So how is the setup looking like for our Indian markets? How are the stocks, or which are the stocks that we should be keeping an eye out on? What are the FNOQs that we'll be keeping an eye out on? We have a team of research joining in with us to set us up for trade and tell us the important stocks to watch out for as well. Good morning, Gaurav, as well as Darshan. Before I come to you all, I'll just take you all through what are we watching out for in terms of important cues that we are keeping an eye out on in terms of Indian markets. Now, obviously, US also gave us a strong handover coming in overnight, right? S&P 500, Nasdaq closing at those record high levels. We had those mega cap companies like Alphabet, Tesla. All of those were buzzing in trade in the trading session for US markets yesterday because of their earnings that they expected to report this week. Also, update that came in from Scott Besson saying that US will not be rushing in for trade deals ahead of this August deadline. So that will be important to watch out for. In yesterday's trading session, we saw a bit of a pressure coming in from FIIs because they sold 1,681 crores, while DIIs were net buyers of around 3,500 crores. Important earnings came in post-market hours. So Indian markets would be reacting to that as well. Some of those mid-cap companies. So keep an eye out on DCM, Shriram, PNB Housing, Sagar Cement. Good numbers that came in from these companies. So we could see a bit of a move here. While some bit of a muted performance coming in from Havells, Oberoi Realty, CIE Automotive, some of the names that we'll be keeping an eye out on. Today, important earnings to watch out for. We have Colgate that will be reporting numbers. Creditex has Grameen, M&M Financials, 197 Communications, Dixon Technologies, some of the names that are expected to report numbers. So we'll keep an eye out on the move on these stocks during the trading session. Important cues today that we'll keep an eye out on. Jane Street will be allowed to resume trading in India. This is what the SEBI has said. There are some conditions that apply to this, so keep an eye on that. RBI is conducting the government bonds auction, so that is important. And 361 WAM, we'll keep an eye out on that because Bain Capital affiliate there's a block deal that is expecting here, so we'll keep an eye out on that. Now, Nifty yesterday closed above the 25,000 level. Important support level for Nifty is 24,800. Today, where we move will be key to watch out for. But let's go across to Gaurav, who's here to tell us which are the important stocks to watch out for. Gaurav, good morning.
yes, first let's talk about PNB Housing. A good set of numbers is what we have seen here. 23% growth in net profit, and this was basically because company actually reported recoveries which were higher than expected. Havells India, on the other hand, actually reported weak set of numbers. Profit actually declined almost by 14% on a year-on-year basis, and this weakness was specifically led by Lloyd and ECD segment. Sagar Cement, once again, actually, when we talk about this company, the company actually reported profits after 4 consecutive quarters of losses. And at the same time, there is another news flow here, is that the management has now proposed to enhance grinding capacity at one of its facility in Madhya Pradesh at a cost of around 120 crores. So there is expansion plan which will keep the stock in focus today. Bajaj Finance is definitely going to be in focus because there is a management reject. Mr. Anup Kumar Saha has resigned as managing director, and Mr. Rajiv Jain will be taking over as Vice Chairman and Managing Director of the company. SBI is also going to be on our radar today because company has completed its QIP. The largest QIP of 25,000 crores is what they have completed, and they have also mentioned that the demand was actually 4.5 times higher than the actual QIP size. Brigade Enterprises is also in focus today because company is acquiring 20 acres of land in Bengaluru for around 580 crores. With this, they are planning to get a project worth 5,200 crores on a mixed use development setup. Lastly, let's also focus on Shyam Metallics because board meeting is going to be there where company will consider fundraising today.
Okay, Gaurav, thank you so much for that. But let's go across to Sudarshan, who's here to tell us the important cues in the world of FNO that we should be keeping an eye out on. Good morning, Sudarshan.
Good morning, Vinny. So we started a week on a very strong note thanks to the financial heavyweights like HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank. Both the companies are the top Nifty contributors as well as the top contributors to Nifty Bank. And at the end, both the stocks ended the day's high, and that helped Nifty close firmly above 25,000. Also, Nifty Bank with healthy gains. For today also, GIFT Nifty following global cues is indicating a positive start, currently up almost 50 points. Now talking about the flows. In the cash market yesterday, we saw FIs selling around 1,700 crore, but it was fully offset by DIs, which had bought more than rupees 3570 crore. In the index futures, after like so many days of selling, yesterday we saw FIs buying nearly 600 crore. And also, they have reduced short positions of almost 3,100 contracts. And as far as long position is concerned, there was a minor reduction of 240 contracts. Now, FI's long exposure remains around 15%. On the option front, 25,200 call has seen shedding of around 14 lakh shares, but addition was seen in 25,300 call. On the put side, 25,100 put has seen addition of almost 50 lakh shares, and 25,000 put has seen addition of more than 33 lakh shares. Now support for Nifty, immediate support will be 25,040, and if we breach that, next support comes around 24,900, that is the yesterday's low, and resistance comes around 25,330, that is the 20-day moving average. Now talking about the stocks in focus, 2 stocks remain in the bank, and those are RBL Bank and Bandhan Bank. 2 stocks have come out of the bank, and those are Hindustan Copper and Angelone. Apart from this, keep an eye on Eternal and Ultratech because the management commentary was positive after the earnings.
Okay, Sudarshan, important updates coming in there. Keep an eye out on Eternal and Ultratech also on the back of management commentary. Thank you so much for that. But let's move on and get that update that's coming on Jane Street right now. The market regulator SEBI has allowed Jane Street to trade in Indian markets after they have deposited 4,843 crore rupees in an escrow account. Now, SEBI has, however, set some conditions and has asked exchanges to closely monitor all of Jane Street's future trading positions and also barred the firm from using any of the trading patterns identified or mentioned in the interim order. Now, the regulator has also stated that the investigation in the matter is still ongoing and this order is not the final clearance that's coming for the firm. But on that note, let's just take a very quick break. And after the break, we'll get you updates that have come in from India and US in terms of the trade deal talks. What's going on over there after this short break? Welcome back to Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Now, like I said, we'll talk about that India-US trade deal and this deal ahead of that 1st August deadline, which is unlikely. We're not expecting that. Now, both nations will hold further trade deal-related talks in Delhi as well next month. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us details. Now, what are we expecting and what should we watch out for going forward? Good morning, Parikshit.
Well, yes, the trade deal talks are clearly stalled before the 1st of August, and any interim deal is ruled out for now. The reason being, the United States wants to impose the same tariffs on India as it is offering to impose on Indonesia and Vietnam. The U.S. wants to impose 20% tariffs on India and is expecting 0 tariffs in return. Now, this is something which is not acceptable to the Indian side. We have also wanted and consistently said in negotiations with the U.S. that we want a mutually beneficial trade deal and we want a competitive edge over Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Bangladesh. So if we are going to be offered the same tariff arrangement, that is not acceptable to us. But the big sticking point is agriculture and dairy, with the U.S. president seeking inclusion of market access for agriculture and dairy in any deal with India, even if it's an interim understanding on a mini trade deal. Now, India has put its foot down, saying that we cannot have any compromise on agriculture and dairy. We've refused to participate in any talks in the month of August, any further talks for the moment. This is the reason why the U.S. government is sending a team led by their trade negotiator, Brendan Lynch, to try and see if a breakthrough can be achieved before September or October. Donald Trump was set to visit India in fall this year for the Quad Summit and also oversee the signing of the bilateral trade agreement. But for the moment, there is no consensus on the deal. There is a 10% baseline tariff on India right now, and U.S. has threatened to impose a 26% reciprocal tariffs, but it's currently on hold till the 1st of August. But for the moment, India has put its foot down, saying that we cannot have a trade deal in this kind of format with the kind of demands that the U.S. is making.
Okay, Parikshit, thank you so much for that. But let's also listen into U.S. Secretary Scott Bessent and what he had to say on the pending trade deals.
Talks are moving along, but the important thing here is the quality of the deal, not the timing of the deals. And President Trump has created maximum leverage, as only he can do. And what we are seeing is like these imbalances built up over 20, 30, 40 years. And we are more concerned with high-quality deals than getting these deals done by August 1st. Our trading partners were told that the rates could boomerang back toward the April 2nd levels. We can continue talking then, but again, we're proceeding apace with the negotiations, but we're not going to rush for the sake of doing deals.
Okay, that was Secretary Scott Bessent. But let's get to the highlights of from the U.S. markets, because S&P 500 and Nasdaq closed at those high levels, record high levels. And this is amidst that increased optimism over earnings as investors fear over the last and the latest trade deals that are shaping up and the developments there, which were shunned because of these earnings that are expected. Now, both the indices hit an all-time high level intraday trade. Dow Jones slipped marginally in yesterday's trading session. What more other updates coming in from U.S. market? We have CNBC's Bertha Coombs joining in with us for that.
U.S. markets were mixed across the major indexes in Monday trading, with the Nasdaq closing at a record high while Wall Street waits on big tech earnings coming later this week. The Dow dropped 19 points, but the S&P 500 was up 9 after touching a new record during the session, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq added 79, closing at its highest level ever. In an interview Monday on CNBC, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent suggested that the Federal Reserve should undergo a review. He said the central bank needs to be examined as a whole to see whether it has been successful. Now, it wasn't clear what form a possible review would take or who would actually perform it. Comment came amid an intensifying conflict between the White House and the central bank over interest rates and cost overruns in a $2.5 billion Fed complex renovation. And Southwest Airlines says its more than 50-year-old open seating policy will officially end on January 27th of next year. Customers will be able to buy tickets with assigned seats starting on July 29th. Southwest announced the end to the policy along with its 2 free checked bags perk earlier this year. as the airline looks for new revenue streams to keep up with more profitable rivals. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back over to you in Mumbai.
Thank you so much for that. But as Bertha mentioned, that U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent called for a review of the entire Federal Reserve, and if they have been successful, listen to what he had to say.
I think that we should think, has the organization succeeded in its mission? You know, if this were the FAA and we were having this many mistakes, we would go back and look at why has this happened? I mean, look at as you said at the top of the at the top of this broadcast, there was fear mongering over tariffs, and thus far we have seen very little, if any, inflation. We've had great inflation numbers. So, you know, I think this idea of them not being able to break out of a certain mindset, you know, all these PhDs over there, I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do. This is like universal basic income for, you know, academic economists.
Meanwhile, the former Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Lael Brainard says that the White House pressure is counterproductive and goes against the Fed's credibility. Listen to what he had to say.
Certainly, we haven't seen this level of pressure on the Federal Reserve for some long period of time. It certainly serves as a useful deflection for the White House. It certainly serves as a way to perhaps place blame for an economy that maybe is not firing as strongly as had been predicted. But it's not good for the Federal Reserve's credibility in fighting inflation. And ultimately, I think it's counterproductive for the White House to undermine the Federal Reserve's inflation-fighting credibility.
And former St. Louis Fed President James Bullard believes that the Fed needs to lower its rates further. Listen to what he had to say.
I think that the committee does need to lower rates further. They had a campaign, a recalibration campaign, in the fall of last year, and some of those effects are coming on board right now, and they should re-engage with their recalibration campaign in this fall, probably starting in September, and that seems to be where the committee is at right now.
And now getting you the latest on Trump-related developments, we have Dia joining you with us in our special segment, Trump Watch. Over to you, Dia.
The White House on Monday barred the Wall Street Journal from traveling with U.S. President Donald Trump during his upcoming visit to Scotland after the newspaper reported that he wrote a bawdy birthday message to his former friend, alleged sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended the decision, stating, as the appeals court confirmed, the Wall Street Journal or any other news outlet are not guaranteed special access to cover President Trump in the Oval Office, aboard Air Force One, and in his private workspaces. She added they will not be one of the 13 outlets on board Air Force One. Meanwhile, the White House says President Trump was caught off guard by Israel's recent strikes in Syria. According to spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt, the president has since discussed the matter directly with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, though no further details of that conversation have been made public. President Donald Trump's recently enacted tax and spending law will add $3.4 trillion to U.S. deficits over a decade and leave millions without health care coverage, according to a new estimate from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. The CBO score for the law reflects a $4.5 trillion decrease in revenues and a $1.1 trillion decline in spending through 2034 relative to a current law baseline. The Trump administration has also released hundreds of thousands of pages of records about the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., despite concerns from the civil rights leader's family citing the sensitive and potentially distressing nature of the materials. And lastly, the Trump administration will begin withdrawing $700 Marines that were deployed to the Los Angeles area last month, the latest de-escalation of the president's contentious crackdown on the city's anti-deportation protests. That's all for today. Now back to you.
Okay, Diya, thank you so much for that. But on that note, we're going to slip into a very short break. We'll get you the cues in the world of commodities after the break. Welcome back and thanks for staying tuned into Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Now we have Manisha Gupta joining in with us as always to tell us what to watch out for in the world of commodities. Manisha, what are you keeping an eye out on this morning? Anything specific that we should watch out for in crude and the metal front?
Oh, yes, crude and, metals, both of these areas, Vinny, because crude has seen a decline for a third straight day. The U.S. trade negotiation uncertainty is weighing on the demand, and so is the European Union and U.S. trade talks. I mean, that is in focus as well. And, the European Union sanctions on Russia energy exports may not have an impact on the global supplies, what the street is working with, and is the reason we've seen a decline coming for the crude because of that as well. And to add to that, Iran is looking to resume nuclear talks with EU this week on Friday itself. So that uncertainty or premium seems to be getting off the prices also. When it comes to metals, it's a different story because you've seen gains come across. Gold is trading at a 1-month high. We saw silver prices gain up by 2%. Iron ore is now trading at a 5-month highs with 3% of gains overnight. Platinum saw a surge of 2.5%. Steel is trading at a 3-month highs as well. So everywhere that you look, it's a second straight day that the metals are doing extremely well in the Asian markets.
Okay, Manisha, thank you so much for that. We'll keep an eye out on crude and metals as well. But, in some political news updates that we have, the Vice President of India, Jagdeep Dhankar, tendered his resignation to prioritize his health care and abide by medical advice. The resignation is effective immediately. He was serving as the Vice President of India since 2022 and previously served as the Governor of West Bengal from 2019 to 2022. The tenure of the 74-year-old Jagdeep Dhankar, who is also the chairman of Rajya Sabha, was till 2027. Now, the election for the new vice president has to be conducted within 60 days, and the Election Commission is likely to announce dates for the election of the next vice president soon. And with that, we're absolutely out of time on this edition of Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Thank you so much for tuning in. Up next, your Bazaar Morning Call to take you through all that market action.